really when I was doing it, I was thinking about, in terms of an audience. My primary audience was my own community. I really wanted to create something that would give my own community recognition and strength, because while I was living in Kingham, it seemed to me that our relationship to kind of the broader, say, Canadian landscape was, we almost felt like we were squatters within this territory, because there was so much logging going on around us, and the types of fishing that were going on within our territories. We seemed to have very little control or jurisdiction over what was happening, and we just seemed to be there, and at times it almost seemed as if we were there at the inconvenience of industry. So I really wanted to do something for my own people that would, I guess, give us strength and recognize our position, and especially our historical relationship to that place and how we perceived our relationship to that land, as opposed to how the government perceived our relationship to that land.
For me, it was about trying to create, as Marianne talked about, these spaces to create these cultural landscapes. And so I really want to focus today on my work that looks at the whole sense of our cultural landscapes. So what kind of cultural landscape do we feel we inhabit? And is it comfortable? Do we feel that we are surrounded by a cultural landscape and environment, a place that reflects our worldview, that reflects our sense of culture, our sense of history, our aesthetics, our images? Or do we feel that very uncomfortable disconnect where you have this way of looking at the world, you have these teachings that shape how you live, and yet the world around you tells you a very different story?
Scribbler with my sons, and I started writing. I thought the first thing that I would do is say, know who you are and where you come from. And so I started by saying my grandfather was born in 1898 at the mouth of the Fraser. I spent many hours driving along what is now called the shoreline of Vancouver, with him beside me or one of my 3 children sitting in the back seat closely, listening to him tell us the stories of these great lands, the same stories that his grandparents told him, who raised him, and their grandparents told them. Here we have almost 200 years of stories, and they're still being passed on today. Because of these oral traditions, my grandfather can rest in peace knowing that I have, as he did, retained what we share as people of this land. When asked of the First Nations people, and I'm skipping some of it right now, who said this land belonged to you? I don't see it written anywhere. I don't see it written on a mountaintop. It came to me to say that it isn't. It is written in the earth. Anywhere you open the earth, the evidence for our people is there.
So, in a simple way, that is where I stand. I'm looking at the fig leaf, looking at the sometimes provocative device that covers and protects the most important bits. I think that what we're talking about here is this thing called art's involvement in protecting something that not everyone should know, or needs to know, or can know. When Robert Gould, Diana Nemiroff and I co-curated an exhibition called Land, Spirit, Power, First Nations at the National Gallery of Canada in 1992, I came to realize that the extraordinary diversity of work that we saw as we traveled across North America was reaching to express or explain or defend, sometimes to discuss historian John Berger's Ways of Seeing, a short but influential book that made searingly evident that the history of European art only made sense if its role in replicating structures of power was grasped.